the mental health ward lie. My name is David, and I thought I was being the most supportive husband in the world. For 30 days, I rearranged my entire life to care for our 2 young children, while my wife received what I believed was crucial mental health treatment at a psychiatric facility. I took time off work, hired help, attended family therapy sessions alone, and spent sleepless nights worrying about her recovery. But Rebecca wasn't in any mental health facility. She was living in a luxury apartment across town with another man, living a completely different life, while I struggled to hold our family together. Let me start from the beginning, because the worst betrayals always have the most innocent origins. Rebecca and I had been married for 7 years, together for 9. We met at Duke University when we were both graduate students. She was getting her master's in social work. I was finishing my MBA. We fell in love over late nights in the library, shared takeout meals, and dreams of building a life together in North Carolina. After graduation, we moved to Charlotte, where I started working in corporate finance, and Rebecca got a job at a nonprofit, helping families in crisis. We were happy, ambitious, and completely devoted to each other. Rebecca was passionate about her work helping troubled families, and I supported her 100%, even though the nonprofit paid much less than she could have earned in private practice. I want to make a difference in people's lives, she told me. Money isn't everything. I respected that about her. Rebecca had grown up in a chaotic household with an alcoholic father and had spent years in therapy, dealing with the trauma of her childhood. Her commitment to helping other families heal felt like her way of transforming her pain into purpose. We got married 3 years after graduation in a small ceremony at her childhood church in Asheville. Rebecca looked absolutely radiant in her grandmother's vintage dress, and I remember thinking I was the luckiest man alive. "I love you more than words can express," she whispered during our first dance. "You're my safe harbor in every storm." Our first few years of marriage were idyllic. We bought a modest house in the suburbs, adopted a rescue dog named Charlie, and talked endlessly about our plans for the future. Rebecca wanted children, but she also wanted to establish herself professionally first. "I want to be the best mother possible," she said. "That means dealing with my own issues before bringing kids into the world." So Rebecca continued therapy to work through her childhood trauma, and I supported her completely. She saw a therapist named Dr. Jonathan Miller twice a week for individual sessions, and occasionally I would join her for couples therapy when she felt it would be helpful. Dr. Miller seemed like a good therapist, professional, thoughtful, always dressed impeccably in expensive suits that seemed a bit fancy for a therapist's office. He was probably in his mid-40s, with graying hair and the kind of confident presence that inspired trust. "Your wife is doing excellent work," he told me after one of our joint sessions. "She's really committed to growth and healing. I'm proud of her," I said. "She's the strongest person I know." "You're very supportive," Dr. Miller observed. "That makes all the difference in recovery." After 2 years of therapy, Rebecca seemed to be in the best place she'd ever been. Her childhood trauma was no longer controlling her daily life. She was excelling at work, and we felt ready to start a family. Our daughter Emma was born when Rebecca was 31, and our son Jake followed 2 years later. Rebecca proved to be an amazing mother, patient, loving, instinctively nurturing. She reduced her hours at the nonprofit to spend more time with the kids, and I increased my work commitments to make up for the lost income. "This is everything I ever wanted," Rebecca said one evening as we watched Emma and Jake playing in our backyard. "You, the kids, this life we've built, I'm so grateful." I felt the same way. We had challenges, of course, sleepless nights with newborns, financial stress from childcare costs, the usual struggles of balancing work and family. But we faced everything as a team. The first sign that something was changing came when Rebecca started suggesting we return to couples therapy with Dr. Miller. "I think it would be good for us," she said one evening after the kids were in bed. "Prevent small problems from becoming big ones." "Do we have problems?" I asked. I thought we were doing well, all things considered. Not problems exactly, but I've been feeling disconnected lately. Like we're so focused on the kids and work that we're forgetting about each other. She had a point. Between my increasingly demanding job in finance and Rebecca's part-time work plus full-time mothering, we barely had time for conversation beyond logistics about pickup schedules and grocery lists. "If you think it would help, I'm open to it," I said. So we started seeing Dr. Miller together once a week for couples counseling. The sessions seemed productive. We talked about communication, about maintaining intimacy while parenting young children, about managing stress and supporting each other's goals. "Marriage is a living thing," Dr. Miller often said. "It requires constant attention and nurturing to thrive." Rebecca seemed energized by the therapy sessions. She would come home from our appointments full of insights and ideas for improving our relationship. "Dr. Miller thinks we should institute a weekly date night," she announced after one session, "even if it's just dinner at home after the kids are asleep. Dr. Miller thinks I should pursue that promotion at work, even if it means more travel," she said after another session. "He says I shouldn't sacrifice my career goals for fear of changing the family dynamic." I was happy to see Rebecca so engaged and motivated. If Dr. Miller's guidance was helping her feel more fulfilled, I was all for it. But over the next few months, I started noticing that Rebecca was mentioning Dr. Miller more and more in casual conversation. "Dr. Miller recommended this book about mindfulness," she would say, showing me something she'd picked up at the bookstore. "Dr. Miller thinks I should consider going back to school for my doctorate," she mentioned over dinner one night. "Dr. Miller says it's normal for couples to go through periods of feeling disconnected," she would assure me when I expressed concern about how busy we both seemed. It felt like Dr. Miller had become the third voice in our marriage, constantly offering opinions and suggestions about our life choices. "Do you think we're maybe relying on Dr. Miller's input a little too much?" I asked Rebecca one evening. "I mean, these are our decisions to make." "He's a professional, David. He's trained to see patterns and problems that we might miss. But we're the ones living our life. His perspective is valuable, but it shouldn't be the deciding factor in everything we do." Rebecca looked hurt. "I thought you supported my therapy." "I do support it. I just think maybe we should trust our own judgment more." "My own judgment got me into therapy in the first place," Rebecca said quietly. "Dr. Miller has helped me more than you know." I dropped the subject. If Rebecca felt that Dr. Miller was helping her, I didn't want to undermine that relationship. But I couldn't shake the feeling that our marriage was becoming a three-way conversation where I was increasingly outnumbered. The real crisis began in March of this year. Rebecca started experiencing what she called severe anxiety episodes. Periods where she would become overwhelmed, withdrawn, and unable to function normally. "I feel like I'm drowning," she told me one evening, tears streaming down her face. "Like all the progress I made in therapy is disappearing." I held her while she cried, feeling helpless and scared. Rebecca had always been so strong, so capable of handling whatever life threw at us. Seeing her in such distress was heartbreaking. "What can I do?" I asked. "How can I help?" "I don't know. I think I need to increase my therapy sessions with Dr. Miller. Maybe go back to twice a week like I used to." "Of course. Whatever you need." Rebecca started seeing Dr. Miller more frequently, sometimes for emergency sessions when her anxiety spiked unexpectedly. She would get phone calls from his office at odd hours, and she would drop everything to go see him. "Crisis intervention," she would explain. "Dr. Miller says anxiety this severe requires immediate attention." I rearranged my work schedule to cover childcare when Rebecca needed to attend these emergency sessions. Emma was 5 and Jake was 3, both at ages that required constant supervision and attention. Managing their schedules while Rebecca dealt with her mental health crisis was exhausting, but I was determined to be supportive. "You're being so understanding," Rebecca said after a particularly difficult week in April. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "We're a team," I reminded her. "Your health is our priority right now." But Rebecca's condition seemed to be getting worse instead of better, despite the increased therapy sessions. She was sleeping poorly, eating little, and seemed constantly on edge. "Maybe you should see a psychiatrist," I suggested, "someone who can prescribe medication if you need it." "Dr. Miller thinks medication should be a last resort," Rebecca said. "He wants to try intensive therapy first." "What does that mean?" "More frequent sessions, maybe some residential treatment if necessary." Residential treatment. The word sent a chill through me. "You mean like inpatient care?" "It's just an option we're exploring. Dr. Miller knows of some excellent facilities." The idea of Rebecca being hospitalized for her mental health was terrifying, but I knew that severe anxiety disorders sometimes required intensive treatment. If that's what she needed to get better, I would support her completely. In early May, Rebecca's anxiety reached what she described as a breaking point. She was having daily panic attacks, couldn't sleep more than a few hours at night, and was struggling to take care of the children. "I think I need to take Dr. Miller's advice about residential treatment," she told me one evening after a particularly difficult day. "I can't keep living like this." "Okay," I said, though my heart was breaking. "Whatever you need to get well." It would be for about a month, maybe 6 weeks. Intensive therapy, group sessions, medication management if necessary. "Where?" "There's a facility in Winston-Salem that Dr. Miller highly recommends. Very discreet, excellent reputation, focuses on anxiety and trauma recovery." Winston-Salem was about 2 hours away, far enough that I wouldn't be able to visit every day, but close enough that I could drive up on weekends. "What about Emma and Jake?" I asked. "That's what I'm worried about. They're so young and they're going to be confused about why Mommy is gone." "We'll figure it out. I can take some time off work. Maybe hire someone to help with childcare during the day." Rebecca started crying. "I hate that I'm putting you through this. You shouldn't have to handle everything alone." "Hey," I said, pulling her close. "Remember what you said on our wedding day? For better or worse, in sickness and in health, this is what marriage means." "I love you so much," she whispered. "I love you too. We're going to get through this." The arrangements happened quickly after that. Dr. Miller helped coordinate Rebecca's admission to the Winston-Salem facility, which was called Serenity Hills Treatment Center. Rebecca packed a suitcase with comfortable clothes, books, and photos of the family. "I'll call you every day," she promised as we said goodbye in our driveway. A car service Dr. Miller had arranged was waiting to take her to the facility. "Focus on getting better," I told her. "Don't worry about anything here. The kids and I will be fine." Rebecca kissed me goodbye, hugged Emma and Jake, and left for what I thought would be intensive mental health treatment. That was the beginning of the most exhausting month of my life. Taking care of 2 young children as a single parent while working full-time was incredibly difficult. I hired a nanny to help during work hours, but evenings and weekends were all on me. Emma was old enough to understand that Mommy was sick and getting help, but she was also clingy and emotional. Jake was too young to understand why his mother was gone, and he cried for her every night. "When is Mommy coming home?" Emma asked every single day. "Soon, sweetheart. She's getting medicine to help her feel better." I called Rebecca every evening like she'd promised, and she always sounded tired, but optimistic about her progress. "The group therapy is really helpful," she told me during one call. "I'm learning so much about managing anxiety." "How are the other patients? Are you making friends?" "Some of them are nice. It's a good group of people all working on similar issues." "When can I come visit?" "Dr. Miller thinks it's better if I focus on treatment for the first few weeks. Family visits can be emotionally disruptive during the intensive phase." I was disappointed, but I understood. If Dr. Miller thought limiting visitors would help Rebecca's recovery, I would respect that recommendation. The calls always seemed a bit rushed, and Rebecca often sounded like she was in a hurry to hang up. "I should go," she would say after 15 or 20 minutes. "We have group sessions starting soon." "I love you," I would tell her. "Love you too. Kiss the kids for me." I sent Rebecca care packages, her favorite snacks, magazines, letters from Emma with crayon drawings. I never got confirmation that she received them, but I assumed the facility had policies about distributing mail to patients. After 2 weeks, I was desperate to see Rebecca in person. Managing everything alone was wearing me down, and I missed my wife terribly. "I know you said family visits weren't recommended yet," I told Rebecca during one of our evening calls, "but I really need to see you, even for an hour." "David, I understand, but Dr. Miller is very strict about the no visitors policy during intensive treatment. He says it can undo weeks of progress." "Can I at least talk to Dr. Miller directly? I have questions about your treatment plan." "He doesn't take calls from family members, patient confidentiality issues." "But I'm your husband. Surely there's some information he can share with me." "I'll ask him if he can make an exception," Rebecca said, but she sounded reluctant. Dr. Miller never called me back. By the 3rd week, I was struggling with depression myself. The isolation, the exhaustion, the constant worry about Rebecca's condition. It was taking a serious toll on my mental health. "Daddy, are you sad?" Emma asked one morning when she found me crying in the kitchen after a particularly difficult night with Jake. "I just miss Mommy," I told her honestly. "Me too. Can we go see her?" "She's too sick for visitors right now, baby, but she'll be home soon." I started seeing a therapist myself to help cope with the stress. My therapist, Dr. Sarah Chen, was understanding and supportive. "It's completely normal to struggle when you're essentially single parenting while your spouse is dealing with a mental health crisis," she told me. "You're carrying an enormous load right now." "I just want Rebecca to get better," I said. "But I also need some support myself." "Have you been able to communicate with her treatment team at all? Sometimes facilities will do phone consultations with spouses." "Her primary therapist doesn't take calls from family members. Patient confidentiality." Dr. Chen frowned. "That's unusual. Most treatment facilities encourage family involvement, especially for married patients with children." "Maybe it's just their policy during the intensive phase." "Maybe, but you have a right to understand your wife's treatment plan, especially since you're caring for her children." After that conversation, I decided to call Serenity Hills Treatment Center directly to speak with someone about Rebecca's care. The phone number Rebecca had given me went to a generic voicemail system. I left several messages requesting a call back from someone who could discuss family communication policies, but no one ever called me back. I looked up Serenity Hills online and found what appeared to be a legitimate website for a mental health facility in Winston-Salem. The photos showed a serene campus with modern buildings. The staff credentials looked impressive, and the treatment programs seemed comprehensive. But something felt off. The website was beautifully designed, but lacked specific details about visiting hours, family communication policies, or patient rights, information that most treatment facilities prominently display. I decided to drive to Winston-Salem to see the facility in person and hopefully speak with someone face-to-face about Rebecca's treatment. It was a Saturday morning in late May. I left Emma and Jake with my sister and made the 2-hour drive to Winston-Salem. The address on the Serenity Hills website led me to an impressive complex of buildings surrounded by landscaped grounds. But when I walked into what appeared to be the main administration building, I found office space for rent signs and empty corridors. The building was clearly vacant. "Can I help you?" asked a security guard who appeared from nowhere. "I'm looking for Serenity Hills Treatment Center," I said. "My wife is a patient here." The security guard looked confused. "Sir, this building has been empty for about 6 months. The previous tenant moved out last year." My blood turned cold. "Are you sure? This is the address I was given?" "Positive. I've been working security here since the building emptied out. No treatment center, no patients." I drove around Winston-Salem for the next 2 hours, searching for any mental health facility that might be called Serenity Hills, or might have recently moved locations. I called every treatment center, hospital, and psychiatric facility in the area. None of them had ever heard of Rebecca Miller as a patient. My wife was not in any mental health facility in Winston-Salem. She wasn't receiving treatment at all. But where was she? I called Rebecca that evening, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. "Hi, honey, how was your day?" I asked, as if I hadn't just discovered that her treatment facility didn't exist. "Good progress today. Really breakthrough stuff in individual therapy." "That's wonderful. Rebecca, I've been thinking, maybe after you're discharged, we should plan a family vacation, somewhere relaxing where we can reconnect." "That sounds nice. We can talk about it when I get home." "When do you think that will be?" "Dr. Miller thinks maybe another week or 2. He wants to make sure the progress is solid before I transition back to normal life." I was quiet for a moment, trying to process the fact that my wife was lying to me with such ease and detail. "Rebecca, can you describe your room for me? I've been picturing you there, and I'd love to know what your space looks like." There was a pause. "It's pretty basic. Twin bed, small desk, window overlooking the gardens. What about your roommate? You mentioned having a roommate." Another pause. "She's quiet, keeps to herself mostly." Every word out of Rebecca's mouth was a lie, delivered in the same loving, familiar voice that had whispered, "I love you" to me for 9 years. "I miss you so much," I said, and that was the only truth in our entire conversation. "Miss you too. Kiss the kids goodnight for me." After I hung up, I sat in my empty living room and tried to figure out what was happening. If Rebecca wasn't in a treatment facility, where had she been for 3 weeks? Who was she with? Why was she lying to me? The most logical explanation was the one I didn't want to consider. Rebecca was having an affair. But even that didn't fully make sense. If she was having an affair, why the elaborate lie about mental health treatment? Why involve Dr. Miller? Why go to such lengths to deceive me when she could have just asked for a separation? I decided I needed proof before I confronted her. I had to know exactly what was going on. The next day, I hired a private investigator. My wife claims to be in a treatment facility that doesn't exist, I explained to the PI, a no-nonsense woman named Janet Rodriguez. I need to know where she actually is. Do you have her phone number? Of course. That's all I need to start. Modern cell phones are essentially tracking devices. If she's using her phone, I can find her. How long will it take? Give me 48 hours. Janet called me back the next evening with information that shattered what was left of my world. Your wife is living in a luxury apartment complex called the Meridian, about 20 minutes from your house, she said. She's been there for the entire time she's supposedly been in treatment. 20 minutes from our house. Rebecca had been 20 minutes away this entire time. Is she alone? No, she's cohabiting with a man named Jonathan Miller. Dr. Miller, her therapist. Are you sure? I have photos of them together. Grocery shopping, walking into the apartment building, having dinner at restaurants. They're clearly living as a couple. I felt like I was going to vomit. How long have you been watching them? Just since yesterday, but the apartment lease started the first week of May. Same week you said she left for treatment. Can you email me the photos? Are you sure you want to see them? I need to see them. The photos arrived in my inbox an hour later. There was Rebecca, my wife of 7 years, the mother of my children, looking happier and more relaxed than I'd seen her in months. She was holding hands with Dr. Miller, laughing at something he was saying, looking at him with obvious love and affection. In one photo, they were kissing outside a restaurant. In another, Dr. Miller had his arm around Rebecca as they walked into their apartment building, carrying groceries like any normal couple. Rebecca was wearing clothes I'd never seen before, designer outfits that cost more than our monthly grocery budget. Her hair was styled differently, and she looked like she'd lost weight. She looked like a woman in love. Just not with me. The final photo was the worst. It showed Rebecca and Dr. Miller on the balcony of their apartment. Rebecca wearing what appeared to be an engagement ring on her left hand. While I'd been struggling to take care of our children and worrying about her mental health, Rebecca had been playing house with her therapist, wearing his ring, living a completely different life. I stared at those photos for hours, trying to understand how the woman I'd loved and trusted completely could have planned such an elaborate deception. This wasn't a moment of weakness or a brief affair. This was a systematic betrayal that had required weeks of planning and constant lying. Every phone call where she'd described her treatment progress had been scripted lies. Every time I'd expressed worry about her mental health, she'd been manipulating my compassion to cover her affair. Every night I'd lain awake missing her, she'd been in bed with another man. The next morning, I knew I had to see this betrayal with my own eyes. I dropped Emma and Jake at daycare and drove to the Meridian apartment complex. Janet had given me the apartment number, 2B in Building 3. I parked across the street and waited. Around 10 a.m., Rebecca and Dr. Miller emerged from the building. Rebecca was wearing a sundress I'd never seen, and Dr. Miller had his hand on the small of her back in a gesture that was unmistakably intimate. They got into Dr. Miller's BMW, a car I recognized from his office parking lot, and drove away. I followed them at a distance to a shopping center about 10 minutes away. They parked and walked hand in hand into a home goods store. I sat in my car watching them through the store windows as they shopped together like any married couple. Rebecca would hold up items for Dr. Miller's approval. He would pull her close to kiss her cheek. They would laugh at private jokes. This wasn't just an affair. This was a relationship. They were building a life together while I raised Rebecca's children and worried about her fictional mental health crisis. I was taking photos with my phone when Rebecca looked up and made direct eye contact with me through the store window. Her face went white with shock. Dr. Miller noticed her expression and followed her gaze to where I was sitting in my car. His face showed no surprise, only what looked like resignation. Rebecca said something to Dr. Miller, then walked quickly toward the store exit. I got out of my car and met her in the parking lot. "David," she said, her voice shaking. "I can explain." "Can you? Because I'd love to hear you explain how your month-long stay at a psychiatric facility has actually been a romantic getaway with your therapist." Rebecca looked around the parking lot like she was considering running away. "How did you find me?" "I hired a private investigator when I discovered that Serenity Hills Treatment Center doesn't exist." "David, please, let me explain what's been happening." "You mean, let you lie to me some more? Because that's all you've done for weeks?" Dr. Miller approached us cautiously. Up close, he looked older than I'd realized, and there was something sleazy about him that I'd never noticed in his office. "David," he said in the same calm, professional voice I remembered from our therapy sessions. "I know this is difficult to understand. You're right, Jonathan. I don't understand how a licensed therapist can justify having an affair with a married patient and helping her lie to her husband. Our relationship developed naturally over time. These things happen in therapeutic settings. These things are called ethics violations. They can cost you your license." Dr. Miller shrugged. "Rebecca and I terminated the therapeutic relationship before anything personal began." "When?" "Because you've been her therapist for 5 years. The professional relationship ended in April. And the personal relationship began when exactly?" Rebecca and Dr. Miller exchanged glances. "David, please," Rebecca said. "Can we go somewhere private to talk about this?" "Private? You've been lying to me for months while I've been taking care of your children and worrying about your mental health. I think we're past privacy." "Our children," Rebecca corrected. "They're our children, are they? Because for the past month, they've been my children. You abandoned them to play house with your therapist." Rebecca started crying. "I never abandoned them. This was always temporary." "Temporary? You're wearing his engagement ring, Rebecca." She looked down at her left hand like she'd forgotten about the ring. "It's not what you think. What I think is that you've been planning to leave me and the kids for months. But you were too cowardly to be honest about it. So instead, you made up an elaborate lie about mental health treatment and let me struggle alone while you lived out your fantasy with him." "I was going to tell you," Rebecca said weakly. "When? After you'd had your fun and decided what you wanted to do with your real life." Dr. Miller stepped forward. "David, I understand you're upset, but there's no need to be cruel to Rebecca. She's been torn up about this situation." "Torn up?" She seemed pretty happy in all the photos I've seen. "The situation is complicated." "No, it's not complicated at all. You're a predatory therapist who seduced a vulnerable patient, and she's a liar who abandoned her children to indulge in an affair. It's actually very simple." "That's not fair," Rebecca said. "You don't understand what our marriage has been like for me." "Then tell me, because I thought we were happy. I thought we were working through some normal marriage challenges with professional help. I thought we were a team. We were never really a team, David. You made all the decisions, controlled all the money, decided what was best for the family without consulting me. This was news to me. What are you talking about? We made every major decision together. You made decisions and then convinced me to agree with them. There's a difference. Rebecca, you're rewriting history. Am I? When did you last ask me what I wanted instead of telling me what you thought was best for us? I stared at this woman I'd been married to for 7 years and realized I was talking to a stranger. The Rebecca I knew would never have justified lying and cheating with accusations about decision-making styles. Even if that were true, I said, it doesn't justify what you've done. If you were unhappy in our marriage, you should have talked to me about it honestly. We could have worked on it. I tried to work on it. We went to therapy, which was apparently just an opportunity for you to develop feelings for another man. Rebecca looked at Dr. Miller helplessly. He put his arm around her shoulders in a protective gesture that made my stomach turn. David, Dr. Miller said, I think it would be best if we all took some time to process this situation before having any more conversations. Process this situation? I'm not processing anything with you. You're not my therapist, and you're certainly not my friend. You're a predator who destroyed my marriage. That's not accurate, isn't it? You've been Rebecca's therapist for 5 years. You know every intimate detail of our marriage. Every vulnerability, every weakness. You used that information to seduce her. Our relationship developed organically. Nothing about this is organic. You're in a position of power over her. You have professional obligations not to exploit that power, and you violated those obligations to satisfy your own desires. I turned back to Rebecca. What happens now? Do you come home and pretend this never happened? Do you ask for a divorce? Do you disappear completely and let me figure out how to explain to Emma and Jake why Mommy abandoned them? Rebecca was crying harder now. I don't know. I haven't figured everything out yet. You haven't figured everything out? Rebecca, you've been gone for a month. You've been living with another man, wearing his ring, lying to your husband and abandoning your children. What exactly haven't you figured out? How to handle the transition, Dr. Miller answered for her. These situations require careful management to minimize trauma for everyone involved, especially the children. Don't you dare talk to me about minimizing trauma to my children. You've already traumatized them by helping their mother disappear from their lives. Rebecca needed time to understand her feelings and make decisions about her future. Rebecca is a grown woman with responsibilities. She doesn't get to take a month-long vacation from her life to understand her feelings, while other people take care of her obligations. I looked at Rebecca, who was still crying, but not saying anything in her own defense. I'm done with this conversation, I said finally. Rebecca, you need to decide what you want. If you want to be married to me and be a mother to our children, come home tonight, and we'll figure out how to work through this. If you want to be with him, then be with him, but don't keep stringing everyone along. David, I need more time. You've had a month, and our children have been asking for you every single day while you've been playing house with your boyfriend. Jonathan isn't my boyfriend. Our relationship is more serious than that. Then I guess you've made your choice. I walked back to my car, leaving Rebecca and Dr. Miller standing in the parking lot of the home goods store. That evening, Rebecca called me. David, we need to talk about logistics, she said, as if she was discussing a work project instead of the dissolution of our family. What logistics? Custody arrangements, dividing assets, figuring out living situations. So you're choosing him. I'm choosing happiness. For the first time in years, I feel alive and appreciated and valued. You felt valued because I've been supporting you financially and emotionally for 7 years while you figured out your mental health. You felt appreciated because I've been raising your children and managing your household while you pursued a relationship with another man. That's not how I see it. Of course it's not. You've been living in a fantasy for a month where your only responsibility was to yourself. But that's not real life, Rebecca. It could be real life. Not without consequences. Not without hurting people who love you. Rebecca was quiet for a moment. I know you're angry, and I understand why. But I hope someday you'll understand that I had to do what was best for my mental health. Your mental health? Rebecca, there was nothing wrong with your mental health. You made up the anxiety attacks, the depression, the need for residential treatment. You manipulated my love and concern for you to cover up an affair. The anxiety was real. The depression was real. Jonathan helped me understand that those feelings were symptoms of being in the wrong relationship. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So now our entire marriage was wrong. 7 years, 2 children, all the plans we made together. All of that was just you being in the wrong relationship. I think I settled for security instead of love. You think you settled? Rebecca, I've loved you completely for 9 years. I've supported every dream, every goal, every interest you've had. I've been your partner in everything. You've been controlling, David. You just don't see it. And there it was, Dr. Miller's influence, reframing our entire relationship history to justify Rebecca's choices. I'm not going to argue with you about this, I said finally. If you want a divorce, file for one. If you want to see the kids, we'll work out a visitation schedule. But I'm done being manipulated and lied to. I'll have my lawyer contact you about custody arrangements. Your lawyer? You already have a lawyer? Jonathan helped me find someone. Of course he did. Dr. Miller had been helping Rebecca plan her exit from our marriage while she was supposedly receiving mental health treatment. How long have you been planning this, Rebecca? How long have you been lying to me about everything? David, I hung up. 2 days later, I received divorce papers served by a process server. Rebecca was seeking primary custody of Emma and Jake, half of our assets, and alimony. The papers cited irreconcilable differences and made no mention of her affair or her elaborate deception about mental health treatment. I hired my own lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Williams, who specialized in high-conflict divorces. Your wife's case is going to be challenging to defend, Patricia told me after reviewing the situation. She abandoned the family home and children for a month under false pretenses to live with another man. Most judges don't look favorably on that kind of behavior. She's claiming I was controlling and that she needed space to figure out her mental health. Do you have evidence that her mental health claims were fabricated? I have photos of her living with Dr. Miller, evidence that the treatment facility she claimed to be in doesn't exist, phone records showing she was lying about her location. That's good. What about the therapist? Is he licensed? As far as I know. I'll check. If he violated professional ethics by having a relationship with a patient, that could impact Rebecca's credibility. The divorce process was brutal and took almost a year. Rebecca and Dr. Miller continued living together while she fought for primary custody of children she'd abandoned for a month to pursue their relationship. The judge was not sympathetic to Rebecca's case. Mrs. Miller, he said during one hearing, you abandoned your children for 30 days while lying to their father about your whereabouts and mental health status. Can you explain how this behavior serves the children's best interests? Your Honor, I was in a mental health crisis and needed time to seek treatment and understand my feelings. But you weren't seeking treatment at any legitimate facility, were you? I was receiving therapy from Dr. Miller. Dr. Miller, who is now your romantic partner and with whom you were cohabiting during this supposed treatment period? Rebecca's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. Dr. Miller lost his license to practice therapy after the state board investigated our complaint about his relationship with Rebecca. Apparently, this wasn't his first ethics violation involving female patients. In the end, I was awarded primary custody of Emma and Jake, with Rebecca getting every other weekend and one evening per week for visitation. She was required to pay child support, but received no alimony. Rebecca and Dr. Miller moved to Florida shortly after the divorce was finalized. I heard they broke up within 6 months. Apparently, their relationship couldn't survive outside the fantasy bubble they'd created during Rebecca's fake hospitalization. Emma and Jake adjusted well to the new reality. They missed their mother, but they were resilient, and we established new routines that gave them stability and security. Is Mommy ever coming back to live with us? Emma asked about 6 months after the divorce. No, sweetheart. Mommy lives in a different place now, but she still loves you, and you'll see her for visits. Are you sad that Mommy left? I'm sad that our family changed, but I'm not sad about getting to spend more time with you and Jake. You two are the best part of every day. And that was true. Despite the betrayal and the pain of Rebecca's deception, I was grateful to have my children with me full-time. We were building a new kind of family, smaller but more honest. 2 years later, I'm in a much better place. I've been dating someone wonderful, a kindergarten teacher named Lisa, who loves Emma and Jake and understands the complexity of our situation. We're taking things slowly, but I'm learning to trust again. Emma and Jake video chat with Rebecca once a week and visit her in Florida twice a year. Rebecca seems happy in her new life, though she's never remarried. She works as a social worker at a hospital now, helping families in crisis, which feels ironic given how she handled her own family crisis. I've forgiven Rebecca, though I'll never understand how she justified her actions to herself. The elaborate lie about mental health treatment was cruel, not just because of the betrayal, but because it exploited my love and concern for her well-being. But I've learned something important from this experience. Sometimes the people we trust most are capable of unimaginable deception. The key is not to let one person's betrayal destroy your ability to trust others. Lisa and I have complete transparency in our relationship. We share phone passcodes, social media passwords, and honest conversations about everything. Not because we don't trust each other, but because we understand that trust requires ongoing maintenance and verification. I never want you to wonder what I'm doing or where I am, Lisa told me early in our relationship. After what you went through with Rebecca, you deserve complete honesty. And she's right. I do deserve honesty. Emma and Jake deserve honesty. We all deserve to be with people who choose us every day instead of lying to us while living double lives. The month I thought Rebecca was in mental health treatment was the hardest month of my life. But it taught me who I really am when everything is on my shoulders, and it showed me what kind of father and partner I want to be. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the most important discoveries about ourselves and what we really value. I wouldn't choose to go through Rebecca's deception again, but I'm grateful for what I learned about my own strength and resilience. And I'm grateful that Emma and Jake will grow up in a household where love is honest, commitment is real, and mental health is treated with genuine care and respect. Some lies are too big to forgive, but they can still teach us important truths about ourselves and what we deserve from the people we love.